Hello, friends. Welcome to Science Talk. I'm your host, Jim Massa. I want to discuss with you in a short video segment what rising heat is doing to electricity demands. I would imagine, as you've already probably suspected, that demand for electricity is going to increase. If you thought so, you're correct. But here's the other side to it. As the temperatures continue to increase, the increasing heat will not only mean the greater demand for electricity, be it for heating in the wintertime or more importantly, cooling down in the summertime. A lot of the power stations that supply electricity could falter, could shut down, and that would leave homes without light, without energy. So, in a paper that was published in Environmental Research Letters, the researchers have identified this new risk, and they basically warn that as the temperatures continue to increase, the efficiency of thermal power plants will fail, as the rising heat will make it more difficult to keep the generators cool. Right? Think about the engine in your car. What happens if you lose your antifreeze? It overheats, and you find yourself going nowhere fast. As it is now, there are already billions of urban dwellers that are exposed to temperatures that can be experienced in the Sahara Desert and other locations that are hot. Heat and humidity could reach potentially lethal levels. Now, where this becomes a major concern, especially when you have areas of not just high heat, but high humidity, is that what's called the wet bulb temperature. Now, the wet bulb temperature is, you might remember little experiments in grade school. You had a dry bulb, a thermometer, and then you had another thermometer with a wet cloth attached to the bulb, and you twirled it in the air, and then you looked at the difference in temperatures. Basically, the drier the air was, the more moisture was able to pull off that damp cloth. So you saw, and of course, that then cools down the bulb. So then you have a greater difference in the dry bulb and wet bulb temperature. And you use that to approximate humidity. Well, the more moisture the air holds, the less will be that temperature difference. At some point, the human body will not be able to keep its core cool, especially if this wet bulb temperature is so close to the dry bulb temperature. Because you do what? You perspire, and then you have some atmospheric movement with evaporative cooling to cool down your skin, cool down your body. Well, if the air is saturated with a high humidity, it's not going to be able to whisk off that your perspiration. It's not going to be able to cool you down. Your body core is going to start increasing, and that what's called hyperthermia will lead to death. So that's a major problem, and especially if you're elderly, would be at more risk of this, because the older you get, the more difficult the body is at thermal regulation. So this has the potential of killing many, many people. But the problem also is that as you have temperatures in the city increasing, guess what? There will be an increase in demand for air conditioning, all that run on electricity. Air and water temperatures rise. Again, the demand increases as well. Turbines that run off coal, oil, gas, what have you, they need to operate efficiently, right? They have to be cooled, air or water, however, but they need to be cooled. Well, if the air and water are warmer too, cooling the turbines, will be more difficult. And well, the result is that's depending on the specific machinery, but the efficiency, the capacity could decrease by significant amounts, say like around 10%. And that could cause periods where power to the buildings is not available. Based on the latest calculations in this paper published in Environmental Research Letters, if global average temperatures increase by 2 degrees C, the number of outages on hot days could double. And we're already seeing a demand for air conditioning is affecting U.S. energy supplies. Dr. Ethan Cofill, who is a geographer at Syracuse University in New York, who was the principal investigator, states that our work demonstrates a harmful interaction between human adaptation and infrastructure vulnerability in a warming world. He continues, as hot days become more frequent, people want air conditioners to protect themselves from unpleasant and dangerous heat, but these air conditioners need electricity, which further increases the greenhouse emissions that drive global warming further. A nice little positive feedback loop. Once again, the notion that we can get to zero emissions in a short time, all I can say to that point is please share whatever foliage you are smoking because we all could use it. It is not reasonable. It's not realistic. And with all this stuff, obviously putting a strain on the grid that distributes the power and so on. And if a nation has yet to invest, forcibly into renewable energy sources, and they're relying on the turbine and so on, that's going to increase the risk of the citizens there as well when the power keeps going out. You need to start phasing out such machinery and start going to wind power, photovoltaic, and other renewable forms. By the middle of the century, we find that 100 to 200 additional average-sized global power plants could be required to make up for the electricity generating capacity lost due to heat, Dr. Cofill warned, which means they're going to be burning more and more fossil fuels unless they are actually renewable energy based. Major progress has been made to reduce the cost of wind and solar power. These zero carbon sources are now often cheaper than fossil fuels. So making the transition away from coal, oil, and gas not only makes climate sense, but makes economic sense. However, we are already feeling the impacts of global warming. Governments should be preparing for the large increases in electricity demand that will come with increased temperatures. Those are all statements by Dr. Cofill. This also ties in, it's not mentioned here, and it's sort of like the big thing you're not supposed to mention, but the fact there's just too many people on the planet. More and more people means more and more demands. More and more demands on finite resources. Not sustainable. Something has to give. So you have that aspect to deal with as well. But like anything else, we're talking positive feedback loops here, and it's not realistic to get to zero emissions. And as I just did in a prior video segment, some scientists think that we put enough carbon into the system that we've guaranteed a 2 degrees Celsius increase, if not more, and it will be more at the rate we're going. So this illustrates, how there's too many people on the planet, we're above the carrying capacity, putting more and more demands. But if we meet the demand, then we have to supply more energy, and depending on what the source is for that energy, we'll put more greenhouse gases into the atmosphere, increasing the warming, increasing the demand for air conditioning, and so on and so forth. Here in the U.S., the infrastructure is collapsing. And instead of pissing money away on military bases and illegal wars all over the damn planet, We should be closing down all overseas bases and these damn wars. Take that money, invest in the infrastructure here, invest in green energy, which, by the way, would create good paying jobs. That's too easy. That sounds too simple. Anyway, that's my little mini rant. This again illustrates, how things are getting out of control. And we have a runaway system. Thank you for your time. Hello, folks. This is Jim here with Science Talk, asking you to please subscribe to my channel and to inform others of my channel and of the work that I do. Please share to social media platforms that you use. Also, as a reminder, don't forget to click the bell so that you know when I load up more videos. Finally, I ask that you support the work that I do by becoming a patron at patreon.com. Details in the description box below. Thank you for your support.